Welcome back. Today's topic is supporting characters. First of all, there's Mary Jane Watson. Now, I actually like the way she's portrayed in these movies for the most part. She has that inner strength and that moxie that Mary Jane is so famous for, and she reacts to Peter in ways that a normal human would. But the main problem I have with her character is that for all her independence, she just sort of hops from one relationship to the next, and everything she does is usually motivated by her need for a man in her life. And I just don't see that as being consistent with Mary Jane's strong and independent character. I mean, in the second movie, she's pretty much just gonna marry John Jameson for the sake of having someone to marry, and in the third movie, she doesn't really have many actions of her own, just reactions to the men around her. Now, in the first movie, she dates this total jerk for the first chunk of it, but it makes sense because, I mean, she's a girl in high school, and, I mean, a lot of girls in high school make relationship blunders. That's normal. So the first movie probably portrays Mary Jane the best. Then, of course, there is Aunt May. Rosemary Harris does a great job in this role, playing a woman who desperately needs help, but is so preoccupied with maintaining her independence that she refuses to let people bail her out. She always wants to make it on her own steam, and I always admired that about Aunt May. This independent spirit doesn't come across very often in the third movie, but to be fair, that's because she got so little screen time. But I'd have to say I like her best in the second movie. Not only was she independent, she was really kinda badass. I mean, she actually helped Spider-Man fight Dr. Octopus. That's awesome! Then there's Harry Osborn. Now, I know he's sort of a villain in the movies, but because he spent so little time in that role, I'm gonna put him under the heading of supporting characters. This one is kind of hard to isolate to a single movie because his character does have a definite journey to go on throughout the films. In the first movie, he came off as a standard kid with daddy issues. In the second movie, we see him slowly descending into a case of the crazies. And in the third, well, the thing about the third movie is that I just don't buy any of what he does. When he helps Peter at the end, I don't really feel anything because the friendship between those two just doesn't feel all that strong. And I don't really like him as a villain either because he's just sort of a whiny little sleaze. Ultimately, I'm gonna go to the second movie because his descent into alcoholism and eventual madness is the closest to the comic books. There are a lot of other minor characters in the movies that make appearances too. Betty Brant is there, but you know, she doesn't really leave much of an impression. Robbie Robertson also doesn't do much, except for this one little moment in the second film where they're all sitting in the Daily Bugle office and Robbie Robertson says, "I heard Spider-Man was there." And then he gives Peter this very knowing look. I was excited when I saw that because I was just thinking to myself, oh my gosh, Robbie Robertson knows who Spider-Man is? How does he know who Spider-Man is? What are they gonna do with this? How did they find out? What is this gonna mean? But they never did anything with it. I mean, it's just sort of a look that they threw in and never addressed again. Maybe it'll come up in one of the other movies, but for now, it's just kind of a letdown. J.K. Simmons does a fantastic job with the character of J. Jonah Jameson. In all three movies, he just brings a fantastic presence to that character. I really believe every moment of his performance. He was probably strongest in the first movie, but that's because he got used not only as a character, but as a plot device. This is another tough call, but I'm gonna have to go with the second movie's overall portrayal of secondary characters. Point goes to Spider-Man 2. Tune in next time when I'll be tackling villains.